Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of VR Roundtable. My name is Anthony, and we've got a full crew this week, everybody. We have Chris. He is with us this week I don't know, was it 2 weeks that you missed, Chris, or just one? Just one. Okay. You didn't speak much the other week. No, I'm just kidding.
Probably not.
We got Steve coming to us live. Steve, what is up?
Not a much.
Not a much. And of course, we have Gary, and he is bathed in the sunlight.
Yeah, as always lately. It's still there's no end to this, apparently. Looking at the weather forecast over here, it's just constant sun. For as long as the weather applications are predicting, it's just constant sun. So we're going to get a hosepipe ban at some point pretty soon, I think.
Hey, Gary, how is England? Is England still alive in the World Cup? I have not actually
Yes,
been
they play
following.
Colombia on Tuesday. So I don't know.
Oh,
my wife is a Colombian immigrant. So, Gary, we have a very vested interest in sending England home.
That won't happen, but whatever. They're doing pretty good. They lost against Belgium, but honestly, that match, no team really cared either way. They could have won or lost either one of them, and they would have still got through. But it's good. It's somebody who's not really into football, as I've mentioned numerous times on this podcast.
You mean soccer?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. But yeah, they're still in it. Looking forward to the match on Tuesday, and yeah, we'll give you an update next time.
My team is Italy, and we didn't even make the World Cup for like the first time in like 200 years or whatever. I mean, they haven't even been doing it that long. But anyway, guys, why don't we go ahead before we start our show? We do have an announcement to make. Basically, all of us have a number of different vacations that are coming up. I think Gary's going away for a couple of weeks. Steve has a vacation he's going to. I have a vacation I'm going to. And because of all of that, and then in addition to the fact that it's just been a little bit slower this summer, we are actually going to take a break until August. So we're going to take a little break. So this is the only episode in the month of July. We will be back in August, so you will see us again in August. And, apologies for a little break, but it'll be good, I think, because we will be able to try out a lot of different things, and we'll come back refreshed when we come back in August. So I think that'll be a good thing. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our news stories, which it is a rather light week in news, but let's go ahead and start it off with Oculus and the Oculus Go. Oculus TV has now launched on the Oculus Go, and I didn't read a ton into this story because I'm the only one on this entire panel that does not have an Oculus Go. Can you believe that? But I understand like Netflix and a lot of stuff have been added, and it's kind of a cool living room setup where you can kind of like cycle through, almost like you're cycling through TV shows. Facebook content's on there and some stuff like that. Why don't I send it over to Gary?
Yeah, so I very briefly tried it, but not to its full capacity, unfortunately, with this Oculus TV. So when you go into this app, you've got various applications that you can then go into and sort of stream TV based applications, really. So they've got a variety of things that you can try on there. But the thing that is actually most interesting about this is the thing that came along with it is the sort of added advantage of people sideloading Android apps into Oculus TV. Now, I didn't really go into this part of it, but it certainly seems like a major attraction for anybody that's got an Oculus Go and you want to view Android apps, just standard, pretty much almost any Android app that you want, you can view then on this screen that's presented in front of you. So people have been doing things like adding the Netflix Android app. You've got a dedicated Netflix app with the Oculus Go anyway, but apparently some people prefer the Android version and this kind of stuff. But also you've got like emulators. So people have been doing like PlayStation emulators and this kind of stuff. I've not really dived into it. Has anybody got any? Steve, have you tried this at all?
I haven't had a chance to give it a go yet, but if you're able to sideload Android's Netflix app, I wonder if it gives you the ability to do the download. So one of the things that a lot of people dislike, myself included, was with the Oculus Go Netflix account, you can't take advantage of the download function. But if you're sideloading the Android version, you may be able to do the download, so that if you are taking your Oculus Go offline, airplane, road trip, or whatever, and be able to watch some of your Netflix content, then that might be a pretty big deal, I think. It sucks that you have to go through the jumps, but still, it may be a solution. So I'm most interested in that.
Yeah, it's really, I tried it and like I'm really underwhelmed. Like I'm just like, what is this? It's just another app launcher to me, other than the side loading thing. Like if you couldn't do that, I feel like I wouldn't even be interested in this at all. But it really just is like a app launcher. Like you click Netflix and you're in the Netflix app. Like why didn't I just open the Netflix app to begin with? But the really new thing is like the Facebook video, the Red Bull stuff. So if people watch things on those services, it's cool. But personally, I've never heard of anyone who watches a lot of Facebook video. So for me, it was like a little disappointing. But
yeah. No, I agree, because when I went in, if you're not sideloading these other apps, I agree, I was a little bit underwhelmed with it. I didn't really view anything or anything like that, but it was interesting to see it. And the main thing is, like, the emulators. I mean, for me, if people have got like PlayStation emulators working on this and that kind of stuff, it just really, it's quite intriguing, and a lot of people are very impressed with it in terms of like it adding value. Because I spoke about last week the Game Boy emulator, the Gear Boy, which it's great. I love it. And if they can add more of this kind of stuff through this app, and it's all, you have to access it all through the developer mode. It's not sort of straightforward or anything like that, but it's good that it's there and it's got this ability to do this kind of stuff.
Hey, I got a question regarding like emulators and stuff, because when I think of that, it's like, oh yeah, that's super cool. Imagine playing like an old Sega CD game, or Genesis and Super Nintendo and all that stuff. It sounds really cool, but then I start thinking about, see, one of the pet peeves that I have with like VR in general is I feel like anytime I'm putting on the headset and I'm playing a game or really doing anything, I feel like there's kind of this general wear and tear factor of like if I'm putting a headset on, I want to be like experiencing something significant, because if it's just something I could see on a regular TV screen, then why not see it on a regular TV screen? Because then you don't have this headset like sitting on you, getting hot and bothered and all that. Does anybody else think like that? Because like people will watch like actual movies and stuff in their headset, and I'm just kind of boggled by that.
No, I'm with you. I'm the same way. Like if I'm home, I'm not going to do that. The value of the Oculus Go for me is so I can watch something when I can't, because I'm somewhere where I can't do that, aka an airplane. But when I'm at home, like I would never play a flat game. Like I would just play it here on this 4K monitor, and where it looks a lot better and everything. No question there. So I'm with you.
But even if you were, say, like at a hotel or something, right, and you had this with you, and let's say you wanted to play Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo through this, like, would you sit there and do it for an hour, or would you do it for 10 minutes and be like, oh, that's kind of fun, and then you turn it off?
I think I could do. I think I could do it in a hotel, because a lot of times, a hotel, if you're like laying out on the bed and the hotel TV is a mile away, and it looks like this little square that you can barely make out details. In that situation, yeah. But if the hotel's nice and I have a bigger TV and all that, then I'm gonna go with what's more comfortable. And I think there's value there. But all else being equal, I would choose the native display instead of wearing a headset for sure.
Yeah, the Go's so nice though. Like the lenses are so good. Like I'd never want to watch a movie on like a Rift. I would always probably choose to watch on the Go now, just because everything feels like that much crisper. It's really nice, because really great for content viewing versus me coming from a Gear VR or anything like that. So I'm happy with that aspect of it. I think I'll probably mostly use it for content when I'm on the Go, I guess.
I wonder how they came up with that name.
Yeah.
I think there will be a day when all of that will, like this idea of like dreading putting something on, like it'll be so lightweight, the resolution will be so clear, and there will be like, I don't know how many frames a second it'll work or whatever, and then like the convergence, vergence, whatever accommodation, like all of that will be solved maybe like 10 years from now or something. There will be
Maybe
a day
when we get
like,
back from our break.
yeah,
All be solved.
it'll all be solved. Okay, well, why don't we go into the next story and remember that old Facebook Zenimax lawsuit? You guys remember that? It's been a while. We haven't heard about this in a while, but there was some news that came out. Now, apparently, two major things have happened recently as far as the court ruling on this. Facebook was supposed to have to pay $500 million to Zenimax. Obviously, they appealed and would continue to appeal into, infinity. But that payment has been chopped in half. It is now down to $250 million. What a bargain. And the other news is that Zenimax was actually trying to get a halt for Facebook for Oculus Rift sales. So like you wouldn't be able, Best Buy would have to take the Rift off the shelves, all of that. I remember when that first came out, it was kind of like, whoa, what if that really happened? And the judge, of course, denied that as well. And Facebook has commented on all of this, and they said, like, they're not saying, oh, yay, we only get to pay $250 million. They're saying we are going to continue to appeal this, blah, blah, blah. Why don't I shoot it over to Gary?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, and I'm a follower of rules, so I like the fact, if Oculus have broken the rules on any of this stuff, then I think they need to be punished, but they need to be punished in accordance with however much is taken place. And the fact is, when this lawsuit came out and they were asking for, Zenimax was asking for the Oculus Rift to be stopped, Oculus should stop selling it. I think that was just a ridiculous step for them to even go for. So I'm pleased that more than anything, in all honesty. But also this other thing. So if this can go through several appeals and we can get this amount lowered, they're still punished at an appropriate amount. I'm okay with that. If they've broken the rules, it needs to abide by the laws that there are in wherever this is taking place. So it needs to happen. But overall, it's a good thing for VR because they've got to pay half out as much as they originally did. So I'm pleased about that, I suppose.
Steve, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's hard without analyzing all the details, which I'm not sure we even have access to if we wanted to go through all the details. But in a nutshell, I agree with Gary. I think if there are damages, that those damages should be paid if found wrong. I know there's a lot of ambiguity in it. Copying code, like there's a direct copy, like copy and paste, like that's bad. But if I'm writing a subroutine just because I know how, I'm not copying and pasting anything. But if I write a simple subroutine that adds one every scan, then that's just a thing, right? You're doing the same thing. You're copying it just the same way a cabinet maker may, drill holes and put knobs on the door. It's just what everyone does. So, when people get into there's so many lines of code were copied, I think understanding what was directly copied and what is unique versus what is just sort of how the industry does things. I think that's an important thing to sort of understand. And I think some of that is mixed here. I know there was some direct copying supposedly done, but I don't think every single bit of it was direct copied rather than just recreated by Carmack or whomever, just because, it's how you do something in industry. So at the end of the day, I think Zenimax was always being a little overreaching, because I believe in copyright and being able to protect your work to the extent that, you're not stifling innovation. I hate the idea of a company that copyrights something and then sits on it and does nothing with it. And then I think everyone loses out in that situation. And as far as I know, could be completely wrong. I don't work for Zenimax, but they weren't making a headset. So unless they were proving that they were making a headset and doing some of the things that Oculus supposedly stole from them, I think the damages should be in relation to that. And the trying to get an injunction to prevent Rifts from being sold or whatever, I think that's kind of crazy, and I think that's unfair, both to Oculus and probably to all the consumers out there. So, probably be claimed as a Rift fanboy or an Oculus fanboy in this situation, but I think it's fair, like Gary, like you said, that Zenimax receives something for damages, but I think the damages should be apropos to, what was truly damaged and not some wild ass number thrown about. It's also, Zenimax, they sue, like most recently they're suing the, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there's a Westworld game on I guess iOS and Android, and admittedly it looks like a straight ripoff of Fallout Vault, what do they call it, Vault Shelter or whatever. I briefly played that thing, but they're suing there. So
yeah.
These guys, they seem to be very efficient at suing. So and maybe they're smart enough, we'll ask for 500, and in the end, we know we're only going to get 125. They may be well aware of and that's why they ask for something so high.
It's like Craigslist.
It's just amazing how long this has been going on for. I mean, I guess that's how it always goes, but just to see this play out in the field that we're interested in is pretty crazy. I remember like one of the first shows I was ever on VR Roundtable, we were talking about basically this case. So it's just amazing that it's still coming up here and there. But I mean, yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. Go ahead.
I was just reading here, it was 16 months ago that the award was settled.
Yeah. And it had been going on for a while beyond then as well. Like this was years and years. Yeah.
Well, hey, let's hope Oculus turns around and they're like, all right, now we're gonna put 250 million into content because we're not getting sued anymore. That'd be a good PR move.
Be a real good.
Yeah. Or they could say, how about the 250 million has to be spent on Bethesda VR games that would be made in the future. But I wonder when it's going to be a situation like when this lawsuit, when all of this is completely done, and it could extend for the next 15 years, who knows? But like if this was done in like another 2 years or something, completely done, would Fallout 4 VR be on the Oculus store? I mean, what would there be like really seriously official support, or would they still kind of hold these grudges? Companies, a lot of times you think there are going to be these grudges like this, but a lot of times business ultimately wins out.
And we got official, it's not on the Oculus store, but we did get official Rift support for the two big games. So I think, like you said, I think business is winning out. They realize we would rather all those Rift players that represent roughly 50% of the PC VR market be able to give us money for Fallout 4 and give us money for Skyrim and have a good positive experience. So I think they made it right. But yeah, I don't see them actually listing the game on the Oculus store though.
I think Bethesda and Zenimax they know how to hold a grudge. It's like a Kotaku. Bethesda still have them blacklisted like 5 years on or whatever it is. So yeah, they know how to hold a grudge, and it's not really done them any harm. So Zenimax can go for whatever they want.
Okay, next story we'll go ahead and get into is Pimax. So the last time I heard about Pimax, they were sending out their M1 units, and the idea was that the M1 unit was hopefully going to be their final version, but they would be sending it out to a bunch of different influencers, YouTubers, Sweeviver, people like that. And basically, as long as it wasn't a complete and utter disaster, that would probably be their final unit. And apparently that is the case. So they are going to be entering mass production now. Now, there are a couple of minor little controversies with this, and I'll go ahead and send it over to Steve to give us a breakdown of some of these little issues.
Well, I'm only tracking it loosely because I am not a Pimax backer, so I'm not super deep into the weeds here. But sort of the biggest thing that's kind of come to surface the last few days, maybe the last week or so, is the controversy that the stated 200-degree field of view that most people assume to be taken as a horizontal quantity is in fact a diagonal quantity. So it's not quite as wide as what you would think. It's still much wider than the Vive and the Rift and the PlayStation VR and all that. So it's still a valid product. It's not to say that Pimax isn't doing anything in the correct direction, but there's definitely some ambiguity there. And going back, and people, of course, you know, the internet being the internet, they've gone through and poured over every communication and every document, picture, video, and all that. And there was at one point a video that showed the measurement being diagonal, but then there's a lot of stated text that shows, you know, 200-degree horizontal fauve. So Pimax has been unclear and has miscommunicated. And what it really boils down to is, you know, was that their intent, or was that sort of a translation issue? You know, I guess presumably most of the people are Chinese, or a relatively small company, so I don't think they have a director of communications and a whole PR communications team that analyzes every word and every statement made. So I can sort of get that if that's the case, but you know, that's a very interesting one, because, you know, really in my mind, you know, this whole time is like I've considered a 200-degree horizontal fauve, and to find out that it's not. So if you take the, I believe it's 120 vertical fauve, don't quote me, I don't have the specs in front of me, but if you do, I guess old Pythagoras, that puts the horizontal fauve at 170-ish, which is still, like I said, a big improvement. And then there was some commentary in the status update. I'll try to dig it up while someone else is talking, that said that they're going to create, Pimax has said they're going to create a software option when booting a game to select either 200-degree or 170-degree. And I have to learn more about what that means exactly in light of this clarity around the diagonal fauve, because if you're selecting 170 degrees and your fauve is really only 170-ish degrees, then what does that mean? So I think there's more to learn here, more to flesh out, but it's starting to smell a little bit like the 90 hertz guarantee, and the, you know, well, you know, now we think we can do 85 or whatever the other number they said, between 80, and then, you know, finally, no, we're going to do 80. So they seem to be walking some points back, and it'll be very curious to see if fauve is something they start walking back now as they get close to shipping.
All right. Anybody else? Any comments on that? Do we know, like, when, like, if I was a Kickstarter backer, do they have like a time range on when somebody might get one of these?
I didn't notice. They've just kind of mentioned that they're going to start taking it to the next step, and the consensus is that the hardware is what it is. It's pretty good. I'm assuming the testers have sort of given them the thumbs up, but just by the tone of it, you know, we don't have concrete information there. But it sounds like most of the work they got to do now, between now and people receiving the units, is more on the software side. They got to get a lot of stuff dialed in there.
Yeah. It's a little fishy, just because there's always been, like, you know, the Pimax 8K. I'm doing quotes for people in the audio only, but, you know, there's a lot of things that are, you know, they sound good, and then you end up finding out it's not 8K, it's not really 200 degrees, it's not really 90 hertz. Like, you know, just all these little digs are kind of hurting it for me, because it was so promising in the beginning. Like, I feel like, you know, that's why Oculus always waited so long when they first announced the Rift. Like, this is exactly what we're gonna ship. You know, like, maybe Pimax could have had a prototype where they're like, we know we can get 90, we know that this is the field of view, and we're going to call it a 4K headset. I don't know, just like, it's a little hard. And
it puts it into perspective. If the Oculus, half dome prototype, but didn't they say 140?
140, yeah.
So if that horizontal, you know, that inches it closer to being where the Pimax 8K is. So the difference between a half dome prototype at 140 and the Pimax at quote unquote 200 may not be as big as it sounds.
But look at them from the outside. They look completely like the half dome is just the same size. Like, that doesn't seem logical. Hey, Gary. I was going to say, Gary, you seem to always be very interested in all these different headsets that come out. And is this going to be a case where, like, you're going to wait and see people getting their hands on this and kind of seeing what the fallout is on this? I'm sure you're probably very curious about that, and maybe even interested in, you know, because all of us, we all got rid of our Vives with this idea that we were going to buy another Steam VR headset. We didn't do it just for the sake of getting rid of our Vives. We did it with this thought we were going to buy another headset. So is that something you're looking forward to, like the end users getting their hands on this and like really putting it through its paces?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was going to mention this actually when other people were talking, but it was something about people now have the M1, like Sweeviver. Steve mentioned Sweeviver, but I think they're under an NDA before they can give any actual impressions on it. But from all the little snippets that we're getting that are coming out of all of this stuff, it seems to be pretty positive. So it gives me, you know, I think there's a certain way you could look at this in terms of like what Chris was talking about, how they were saying, like they've lowered the field of view and also the refresh rate and this kind of stuff. And it's not great that kind of stuff, but at the same time, you know, I hope that this is a great product. I've mentioned it numerous times. I don't need to go over that again, but if this is a great product, then I will be there. I would love this to be fantastic. And from what Sweeviver has sort of hinted at, and some of these others as well, it seems to be a pretty good product. But at the same time, I can't dismiss what has gone on in the past. And there is this sort of slight hesitation, even now, even with all these people getting hands-on, there's still this very slight hesitation that what is this product going to be? How is it going to be really, like when you actually try it, because people notice different things. Could the refresh rate, for example, be a bigger problem for some people than it is for others? And also the field of view, could that affect more people than others? So one thing I'll just say finally as well on the diagonal measurement, I don't think that's great, because when they had this video, they did show this video where it does clearly show a diagonal measurement on the screen. But at the same time, their text does say a horizontal measurement, which is how all of the others have positioned themselves in terms of field of view. So it's not great they did that. It's a mistake. I honestly think it was probably a mistake. I can't really put too much blame on them when they were sort of half-heartedly showing different things. But
it's a hammerhead shark. It's got to have a huge FOV. I mean, that's the trade-off.
I think. Well, you know, we've mentioned Sweeviver a few times, and you know, I haven't talked to him offline about anything or anything like that, but he made a post somewhere, maybe it was on YouTube, maybe it was on Reddit, I can't remember. And it was retweeted, reposted, whatever. And he basically said, yeah, guys, I haven't made videos lately. He goes, it's really hard. He goes, I can't make Pimax videos. And he's like, I'm enjoying the Pimax so much that I don't have any motivation to use my Vive or my Rift and make Vive or Rift videos because I'm enjoying the Pimax that much. So when he said that, now he's a very enthusiastic guy, but when he said that, that kind of hints like, I mean, he's got a YouTube channel, he's got a lot of subscribers, and if he isn't motivated to make videos, then that suggests that he's really digging this Pimax 8K. So that gives me a big feeling of optimism on this particular headset. But at the same time, like, you know, we could think of the Vive, and Anthony, you mentioned, you know, we all sold our Vives. One of the reasons I sold my Vive was the maintainability of it. You know, the Vive experience is one thing when it's all working and when you don't have to deal with HTC support. And with the Pimax, I'm very concerned that, yeah, out of the box, when it's all working, it may be a great experience, but what happens when it's not? What happens when you know, one of the displays doesn't turn on? My personal experience with small Chinese companies is it's very difficult. You know, with my Rift, I can, like, worst case scenario, I can just go down to Best Buy and buy one. It's there. I'm not without a unit. If I break a controller, I can get one relatively quick. Amazon, Microsoft Store, well, that's for a Vive, but either way, like, I don't think we're going to be able to go onto a Microsoft Store or Best Buy and get a Pimax. And that's the thing, is like, I don't want to be dealing with shipping something off to China to try to execute some sort of warranty with no real consumer protection. And you know, I think that is probably my biggest pause. But even then, being the fanboy for VR that I am, once they become readily available, if not sooner, and if everyone that has used one is very happy with the experience, I'm pretty sure I'll buy one, just because I'm a sucker.
Yeah, at the very least, this pushes companies like Oculus and HTC to release their products sooner than they would think to, just because they're going to start to miss some market share. So I think any way you spin this, even if the headset's not the greatest thing ever, it's getting into people's minds that higher field of view is important to consumers. So I think that's definitely a good thing.
One thing that sticks out in my mind, I don't know if anybody remembers when Palmer Luckey went over and tried the Pimax, and there was a few posts about that at the time. And this was around the time that the Kickstarter was taking place.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about not just the Pimax, but another piece of technology as well. Actually, it might have been the TP cast, I don't know. But he was talking about all of these various pieces of technology where he'd been captured and, smiling with the developers. And then he posted something along the lines of, I don't want to discourage. Basically, he was saying he doesn't want to say too much about these things because he doesn't want to discourage all of these companies that are innovating in the world of VR. Now, that was taken in the context of, really, some of these products are not great. They don't live up to expectations, but he doesn't want to discourage them from persevering with this kind of stuff. I don't know whether that's the case or not, but that was just an interesting comment that he made. And, we're far along from that iteration of Pimax, so it might not be the case at all. But I just thought it was an interesting point that he made there.
Well, there is a basic geometric mathematical problem with that wide a field of view and flat lenses, and that's why the Pimax has sort of the I guess the two lens element that they have if you look in on it, and those wide angles, if you draw a sphere around you, which fauve is spherical, it's not flat, and it's where horizontal can be even somewhat misleading. It's spherical, and when you take those angles and stick them through a flat lens, it screws with the geometry, and there is a mathematical issue that needs to be solved. And I don't think, and it may be what Palmer was referring to, I don't think Pimax has fully solved it, and that's why you have a lot of people saying there's distortion at the edges. The question is having some distortion at the edges and seeing something in your periphery where you're not necessarily focusing, is that better than having nothing like we do now in our Rifts and Vives and everything? I'm inclined to think that may be better, just having some sort of color that matches the scenery and filling it out. That may be better than having nothing, but it still may not be fully correct, and it may not be where the industry wants to get to. And for a product like the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift, the PlayStation VR, they may want to solve it correctly before they bring something to market with that wide of a fauve.
Yeah, I was thinking of something I was going to say. It was I know I heard somewhere, I don't know if this was Palmer Luckey. It kind of sounds like it, because I heard something about how, like he was saying in their labs, Facebook, they've already tried this, and one of the problems that they discovered was that these things work great in a short 20-minute demo on a trade show floor, but that when you're spending 2 hours in it, there's like some type of issue that these super wide field of views have, like an extended play session. And that's why I'm interested in when when regular consumers get their hands on this, I'm not going to really pay attention to what they say right away. I'm more interested, like 60 days later, what are they saying? That's what. And then the other thing I'm curious about too is like, Knuckles, go back to Knuckles, and the fact that once Knuckles finally becomes available, I would imagine that HTC will eventually be able to manufacture a retail package that will include Knuckles. I wonder if Pimax will be able to get a license to Knuckles and be able to include basically Knuckles with Pimax event, sometime in 2019, spring, summer, maybe a year from now. But because it would be hard for me to buy a full package headset and then also know that I got to buy 2 extra controllers as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I can't think of a situation where that wouldn't happen, because if Valve are this open with their technology and they want all of these companies to do that, as far as I know, Valve are not stopping anybody from manufacturing a Steam VR compatible headset or any of this stuff. So why should they take preference for HTC to include the Knuckles rather than Pimax? There shouldn't really be any reason for Valve to limit that, as far as I know.
Okay, well, we spent a lot of time on that story. Let's go ahead and bounce over to Beat Saber, which is going to be adding basic multiplayer. Now, I looked at a couple of these stories that were talking about this, and there really isn't very much information here other than the fact that they're working on some type of multiplayer. And so there's a lot of conjecture about, well, how is this going to work? Is it going to be two people kind of going head to head? Is it going to be like switching back and forth within the same song? And I can tell you myself personally, like I'm kind of interested in this idea where it would be like two different headsets in the same room playing Beat Saber multiplayer, but I don't know how exactly that would work either. But
bloody nose, fat lip simulator.
Yeah, broken TVs everywhere. But anybody got any other comments on this?
No, I have a hard time visioning what exactly Beat Saber multiplayer is.
Yeah, I mean, it was so, they tweeted just two little tweets, and what it just sounds like is you're going to look to your left and your right. It's going to be real time, and you're going to like see people playing the same song as you at the same time. But they said they are trying to consider how to represent cues coming at the other person so it doesn't confuse you, and they haven't figured that out yet. So really, it's just like kind of like a we're working on it thing. So
more of a too much competing head to head for the high score.
Yeah.
Which is way back in the day, that's how Guitar Hero worked. Is you'd play a Megadeth song or something with someone, and there was always some 8-year-old kid that could 100% every song on Expert Plus and completely destroy you. Yeah.
What I'd like to see is like 2-person songs where you're both next to each other and you have to hit different things or like reach over to the other person's stuff. But that hopefully. Eventually that would come, but who knows? That might be a different game altogether. Yeah.
This might be what makes Gary finally like Beat Saber.
I wouldn't be too optimistic. But no, just on this point, because I think because they mentioned they're adding sort of basic multiplayer, so I would imagine it's sort of you're going against one other person, maybe a few other people, if they can do that. All adds value, and people love Beat Saber, so this is great. Yeah.
It's funny because I would think in the VR arcade market, like Beat Saber would be absolutely huge, but they have not licensed that game to VR arcades at all. Like you cannot get a license for Beat Saber. If you go to a VR arcade and they have Beat Saber, they're doing it illegally. And I guess it has something to do with probably the music licensing. Like they probably... Hyperbolic Magnetism probably has a license for the music for their actual game, but they can't do it for like arcades. It'd be like a separate deal. But like when I think of multiplayer, when it comes to like a rhythm action game, I think of people being in the same place doing it. I don't know why. That just is what I think of.
I guess it's a bit like, sorry, just before we move on, I do get your point on that, because I guess it's like Guitar Hero, isn't it? Everybody's in the same room doing this kind of stuff, and that's really what makes that a fun party game. It would be great to do that in Beat Saber as a party game, but as well, I think in terms of them adding this as multiplayer, I honestly think it will be online against other players. If they do a co-op option as well, that would be good. Get more people in there.
Alrighty, and the next story we're going to get into is we have a lot of games that have gotten release dates, and we're talking about some really big games here. In fact, there are 3 really big games that just got release dates recently, and they're all coming out in the summer months. And so this is pretty exciting for us getting some big games this summer. The first one is Seeking Dawn, which today is July 1st we're recording this on July 1st. But Seeking Dawn is coming on July 12th. And I don't know if you guys saw this on Reddit, but like the very first time that this information hit Reddit, there was this huge thread. This is on the Vive subreddit. There was a huge thread about it. And everybody that was in, like, I went into the thread expecting everybody was going to be like positive and excited and stuff. And I went in and everybody was just talking mad smack about, like, I don't know, some type of video or something that Upload VR had in their article, which is now changed. And now they got the new trailer in there. But it was all kind of like negativity. But then I've seen the newest trailer for Seeking Dawn. I'm sure you guys have seen the newest trailer for it. And oh my God, that looks absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful. I'm scared for my 970 is what I am, but you guys with your 1080 Ti should be in a great situation. Gary, did you pay attention to any of this kerfuffle that happened when it first came out, or did you just see the good trailer when you finally saw it?
Well, I did see the good trailer eventually, but I went onto Reddit and I did very briefly sort of check that post that you were talking about, but I didn't view the video when I was checking that out. So I thought I'll add it onto my watch later list, and then I'll get back to it later. But basically, I saw the new trailer, so it looked great in the new trailer. I don't know what was going on with that, because apparently people were talking about how it looked like it was really juddery and it looked almost like on rails in places and this kind of stuff. I don't really know what was going on with that, but
yeah. We do know the price is $39.99. So in the piece, well, in PC VR land, if your price is $39.99, that is a major game, especially when, I mean, it must be so hard for these developers because there are so many sales, so many games that you can pick up for $5, $7.50, $10, $12.50, that it makes a $39.99 game seem even more ridiculously. I mean, I don't know. It just makes it seem like it's like they want $80 for it or something. Steve, what is your interest level on Seeking Dawn? Is this one you've been tracking, or just kind of interested?
Yes and no. I'm concerned, honestly. So you can pre-order the game now, and you get access to, I guess, a closed beta with an NDA. And I'm sure that's probably happened before, but I personally am not aware of whenever that has happened, not just with VR, but within a lot of games. So, if your game's good and you're opening the general public to try your game, if they pre-order, then why not let them talk about it? Like that just seems weird to me. So other than that, like, the game the trailer looks fantastic. There have been people commenting on message boards, YouTube, Reddit, whatever, and saying that the game is good. But that smells fishy. Some of those commenters almost look like it's a viral marketing tactic, like, because they're too PR sounding in their language. So my red flag detector is beeping here on this, saying, there may be something more to the story, but based on the trailer, I'm cool with the $39.99 price. If the game is as good as it looks, I'm not concerned there. There are open press applications I applied to get us access to the game. I haven't heard anything yet, so maybe we'll be able to talk about it. Well, I guess either way, we'll be able to talk about it when we come back in August, because the game will just be out. So it seems, I don't know. Something just is giving me pause. Other than that, I think it looks good.
Yeah.
Chris, I know you're still rocking that 980, right? Was it a 980 Ti or a regular 980? Oh,
just
980.
980.
Okay, so yeah, you're kind of in my boat. Are you worried at all when you watch a trailer like this? Is that the first thing that pops into your mind?
Yeah, definitely. I think my computer's just starting to get old in general. It's starting to age really bad. I've had it for so long. The CPU is pretty old. They haven't really aged too much, but man, I'm starting to notice a little bit of stutter here and there just on normal VR games. I'm like, man, I need a new graphics card, but I want the next gen to come out. It hasn't came out yet. I don't want to. It feels too late to get a 980 or 1080, I should say. So it's a little weird boat I'm stuck in right now.
There's a lot of rumors that 1180s are, going to be announced this month, next month. It's pretty close.
Yeah, I saw rumors that they're going to be $1,000 too. Let's hope not.
Good Lord, I hope not.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just on NeoGAF recently, and I don't go to that website hardly anymore, but for some reason I randomly went there, and there was a thread on there about the whole crypto mining thing, and wondering, is this crypto mining thing, which still has not died off, it still hasn't died off, is this basically killing PC gaming as we know it? Because it's just like an average regular Joe Schmo cannot get into PC gaming. The only way, I'm so stuck, man. I got my 970 and I was this close to getting which one was it? A regular 1080, I believe. And I missed it just by a hair. And then 2 weeks later, it was over. Forget about it, you know, and just the prices went astronomical.
Well, I think they've come down. I think you can get like a 1080 Ti for right around MSRP now. I think the same thing for a 1080. They're probably, if anything, a little inflated, but we've come down from that crazy. There was a point there, I don't know, 4-ish months ago, like in order to get like a 1080 Ti, they were going for like $1,200. It was like, if I had another card, I would have sold mine, you know, because I only paid $700 for it. And I'm like, that would have been incredible, $500 profit to rent a 1080 Ti for a year. So yeah, I think the market's better. I don't think it's completely resolved, and hopefully 1180s and GPUs in general are not coming in at $1,000. Like that scares me.
Yeah, well, they're still definitely inflated at the moment because obviously, but the thing I want to say is because I'm subscribed to a newsletter for a retailer over here, Overclockers, and they sent me an email now, and they seem to be getting far more of these cards in stock. Whereas, like over the past months, I've never had an email with a GPU offer or anything like that. But the prices are still, I mean, they're ridiculous. For 1080 Ti, it's around £830 at the minute. Whereas before they were going for around 680, I think, something around there. Anyway, like their lowest point, I should say, around 680. So they're still inflated, but they do seem to be getting more stock of them at the moment.
That might be because I like you, I get Micro Center emails, and I'm pretty sure they had 1080s at pretty much retail now.
But you know what? Micro Center is a rare bird, man. They have all kinds of great deals at Micro Center, but you have to go there physically. You can't buy it online, and there's only like 10 of them nationwide or whatever. We used to have one in San Jose.
Yeah.
I was going to say, there's like we can talk about leaks all day, who knows, but there's a potential leak that the 11 series graphics cards will come this fall, so that's exciting. But according to like a Lenovo guy who accidentally said that their new computer would have it in it, but who knows? I mean, I'm looking forward to that. That's definitely what would make me jump to upgrade for sure.
You know what rumor I saw? Like, we don't have this story on our chart at all, but I saw a rumor on NeoGAF, which is a great place to go for this type of stuff. And you guys know that Bink video thing that they use on like console gaming, BINK, that like you'll start up a game and it'll have a little logo for Bink video or whatever. It's like some type of compression thing. I know you guys have seen this. Anybody that's played video games has seen it a million times. Okay, well, apparently this company accidentally put a little line in their new Bink update for an NDA'd console in 2019 that they can't talk about. And this exact same thing happened 1 year prior to PlayStation 4, the exact same thing. And so everybody is saying this is confirmation. I mean, that's what they're saying on NeoGAF. Confirmation PS5 November 2019, which lines up perfectly.
That's what you said.
Yeah, lines up perfectly to my prediction, PSVR 2, November 2019, but that's neither here nor there. But we do have some other game announcements. We just talked about Seeking Dawn, but Marvel Powers United VR has a date of July 26th. And you know, this is a game where we heard about this game last year. I remember last year thinking Marvel Powers United VR would be like a January release or maybe March or something. And it was kind of this game that everybody kind of forgot about. It's like, when is Marvel Powers United VR? And then we'd keep getting these little trailers where they would show Thor or, you know, all these different characters. And now we just got a trailer for, it's showing Black Panther. I believe there are 8 characters, 8 superheroes, 8 supervillains, and I think 10 different stages that are taken from the pages of Marvel Comics, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I have a little bit of a worry about this game. See, I was kind of hyped on this game because I like Sanzaru, the developer. These were the guys that made the old Sly Cooper games way back in the days. They made Rip Coil on the Oculus Rift. They made, is it Sports Challenge VR?
Sports Challenge.
Yeah. They made that, and that I thought was actually quite underrated, I think. And then they were using the Epic Games Robo Recall engine for this game, so they didn't have to do a ton of, you know, they have the engine, and then they just need to make the game on top of it. But I'm going to tell you what my feeling is, and then I'll see what you guys think, is that whenever I'm watching these videos of this game, to me, what it looks like is it looks like a battle arena kind of thing with just a lot of chaos, enemies everywhere. And I don't know that, because the price for this game is $39.99, and that's the pre-order price. Usually Oculus, you'd get like $5 off or something if you did a pre-order. I don't know that this is going to be $44.99, but it's $39.99 for the pre-order. But when I'm looking at this, it's like, it looks like you're going to be a superhero. There's going to be a main villain. You're going to be on a certain background, and it's just going to be like really chaotic. And I don't know that that appeals to me. Robo Recall doesn't have like a major story or something, but it does kind of take you through stages and stuff. I don't know. Does anybody else have a concern with this?
A little bit, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Most of it is I'm excited for the co-op experience. Like I'm excited to kind of see what the multiplayer side of it is, but I know that a lot of people don't really care about that, and it sounds like that might be maybe the most fun thing about it is to play it with someone else, and like you're both trying to destroy all the enemies and get through the levels. So I think that would be the exciting thing for me. But I don't know I feel like if it wasn't Marvel, if there's just any random characters that could do this, like generic superheroes, I don't think anyone would really be interested in this game. Honestly, it's probably just because has Marvel in it and Marvel characters that it's getting so hyped up. So I'm hoping it doesn't heavily disappoint, but we'll find out, I guess. Find out in our next show.
Yeah, I think the game's going to play a lot like Robo Recall in the sense that it's a bunch of disjointed levels. Like if you guys remember playing Robo Recall, it was like go to level 1-1, level 1-2, and so on. And there was a loose narrative associated with that. But I can't help but to think that Marvel's Powers United is going to be the same way, mostly because of the co-op element. Anytime you have a sort of drop in, drop out, let's match make, and this person's playing level 3-1, so that's what you get matched into, and that's what you play. I think it's going to be that way. Of course, we don't know, and I dislike that. I'd rather there be sort of a tight knit narrative, and the things you deal with be a little bit scripted, because in VR they can do these big things, these scripted events. Imagine a building collapsing and all that, and just kind of working through it. A lot of things that like Lone Echo was able to do because it was scripted, and it's what I hope, but I don't see that happening here. So yeah, it gives me pause. It's still probably worth the $30 or $39.99, because it doesn't mean that it can't be good, and it doesn't mean that the gameplay can't be tight and very impressive. But as a full game, I just think it's going to be co-op, disjointed levels.
Yeah, I agree. I think it looks good from all the trailers, and actually some of the very early Let's Plays, because there were a few videos that were released of this, of people playing this. But yeah, to me, it's a co-op game. I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like a co-op game only. Doesn't really appeal to me, unfortunately, but it looks good. And I think to people that it does appeal to, these Marvel fans or these co-op fans that want to do this kind of stuff, I think it will really appeal to them. So it probably got quite a good demographic of people that it will sort of appeal to, but it's not really one I've really got too much interest in.
Yeah, I'm not really like a Marvel guy myself. I don't know most of these characters. I know Thor and the Hulk and like Deadpool and some of the basic ones, but like some of the other ones I don't even
Black
know
Panther?
who they are. Yeah. Well, I know Black Panther.
Rocket Raccoon?
Well, only because of the movies.
So we're up to 6. So I do think most of them.
There's at least one of them, Crystal or something, or Black Bolt. Like I don't know who the hell those.
I don't know
people
those two, and I'm not very familiar with Captain Marvel. And
yeah, me neither.
I guess that's Captain Marvel is going to be in the next Avengers movie. There was a big hint to that. So apparently she is like if you follow comics, she's well known. But yeah, like you, I really didn't know much about Captain Marvel. So.
The one thing that does kind of interest me about this concept, though, is having these 8 different characters that do have different powers and abilities. Like that's kind of cool, because that if it was just one single character, I mean, it's almost like you're getting 8 little mini games with it, because it's like you're learning these 8 different characters. Now, like Rocket Raccoon is just, from what I understand, just basically guns blazing. So it's kind of just a guy with a bunch of guns. But like the Hulk and Thor, I don't know. I think it could be a really cool game. So, but one thing I did notice though that I thought might irritate the hell out of me is like when you do watch these Let's Play videos for it, you'll hear the character like Hulk or whoever it is making comments, during and like that's kind of cool the first 10 minutes you're playing it, but then it's like hopefully there'll be an option to turn that off after a while, because I could see that getting super annoying. I don't know. Is that just me?
No, yeah, you'll hear the same thing over and over and over and over. But you know what? Almost there's so many games that do that. Like it becomes a trope of gaming.
Absolutely. Okay, and the last big announcement of these 3 big games is Firewall 0 Hour. And this, I don't know if we talked about this on the last show, that Adam Orth, he was at E3 on a number of different panels and interviews and stuff. And at one point he mentioned it's coming very, 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 very soon. And everybody thought, oh, this might be coming out like next week or maybe 2 weeks from now. Well, we got a date of August 28th. So not exactly around the corner, but this is a game that a lot of people are hyped for. It's not really like Call of Duty in VR, but it's more like Rainbow Six or Counter-Strike in VR. And another thing that we heard about this is there is going to be a PlayStation, the AIM controller. There's going to be a bundle. So you could pick up Firewall 0 Hour and the AIM controller bundle, I believe for $79.99 is going to be the price for that. And so for those of us that have PlayStation VRs, but we've never picked up that controller, this could potentially be a good option there. I'm not really into the squad-based thing, but it does look pretty cool. Gary, I know you're a brand new PlayStation, well, not brand new, you've had it for a little while here. Of course, you pick up every VR headset there is, but any interest in that AIM controller? Like, I don't think you have one, right? Do you?
No. And actually, I was looking on eBay because you can pick them up. Sometimes you can get quite a good bargain on eBay of these AIM controllers. So I was thinking about getting one and picking up, what's it called? Farpoint. I think that seems like a pretty good game. So I was thinking about it, but I don't know. And this game, although it does look good, I've got to acknowledge it looks good. It doesn't really appeal to me too much. But like you, when they said that, I saw this tweet or whatever it was where they said very, 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 I think it was 5 berries, 6 berries maybe, very soon. You do expect that. Why do they do that? Why do they build up people's expectations to that level? Because you would think that implies sort of next week or 2 weeks' time or something like that.
If you're working on the project, that probably does feel, and you got a deadline, that probably does feel very, 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 very soon. But for us consumers, I'm surprised late August is what it is. Like, I wonder what just soon means to that guy. Like 2020. So it's a little bit of a bummer that it's not as soon as suggested, but I think we've talked about Firewall 0 enough to kind of set our expectations for it. I feel like I'll probably be the one that likes it the most of our group here, and I'll give it its run through and then get bored with it like most other multiplayer games.
Steve, let me ask you a question real quick. Do you have a subscription to PlayStation Plus?
Yes.
You do. Why? For your kids? For
my kid plays Fortnite. I don't know if you have to have it for that, but
probably.
The free games is still a good value. I want to be able to go online when I need to, and I usually get it for less than the $59. I usually time it, and there will be sales where you get it for $39 for the year. I've kept it, but prior to VR, it's old habits die hard. Prior to VR, I was pretty much exclusively a PlayStation gamer. I had an Xbox, I got a Wii or a Wii U, but I really played most of my games on PlayStation. So I've had PlayStation Plus continually since the program came out, and it's kind of, I haven't let it go yet.
The free games are, they're good value. I mean, you pay that subscription, you get online play, you get the free games for as long as you're subscribed. They are great value. I never play them. I'm still subscribed and I never play them. I downloaded Mad Max and I know I'm never going to play it. I like the fact that it's on there. It's in my library. But yeah, because I don't really play flat games too much anymore. I do occasionally, you know. But yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, it's been a good value. Like my kids have played Ratchet and Clank and Little Big Planet, and finally what's the game that launched that Mark Cerny made when the PlayStation 4 launched? Knack. Yeah, they got that. Eventually came to PlayStation. So the kids have gotten some games. It's enough that I've kept it going. But yeah, if I was being a penny pincher, I probably couldn't argue that it was wise to keep it going.
Yeah, for me, well, when I bought a PS4, I had Plus and I kept Plus, and yeah, it was wonderful. You'd get these free games, and there was a lot of like indie games and smaller games, you know, that are relatively small downloads, and it was awesome. But I mean, there would be an incentive for, even though I'm not a multiplayer guy, I would have an incentive to get Plus if you were guaranteed free VR games every single month. But sometimes there will be like a 2-month period where there isn't any, but then sometimes they'll give you Rigs or Bound or something like that. And
yeah, I think they gave away Star Blood Arena.
Yeah,
that's really the only one that I didn't already have. I think they gave away Rush of Blood, but
Rush of Blood, yeah,
I already had it. It's like
yeah. So I mean, but in terms of Firewall 0 Hour, I do know that they will have some type of little single player practice mode for the people that don't have PlayStation Plus, but it seems like not a very smart idea to buy that game if you don't have Plus. Okay, so let's go ahead, and we just got a couple quick more stories real quick. The Oculus Go is launching at Canadian and European retailers. Gary, you might know a little bit more about this.
Yeah, well, when Oculus Go first launched, I sort of expected it to appear pretty quickly in UK retailers, but it didn't happen. So I'm pleased this is happening now, because it's just exposure more than anything else. Having Oculus Go on the shelves in these retailers, which are pretty big retailers over here, like PC World, Courier's PC World is a pretty big retailer, and just having these things on the shelves, I think it's good news. So yeah, I'm pleased that they've finally got around to this. I guess they wanted to, because it's difficult, you know, distribution is a difficult thing to do, and they sort of had this launch alongside, what was it? Was it F8? I think they launched the Go. It was F8. So they wanted to do this launch of the Oculus Go at F8, and it was difficult to manage a distribution all around the world in order to get this to launch simultaneously. So they concentrated on the US first, which makes sense. But I'm just pleased it's coming out other retailers now.
They had their Chinese partner as well. In China, the Oculus Go doesn't sell as a Oculus Go. It's a Xiaomi. It was an XOAMI. I think it's how it's spelled. So it's branded as Xiaomi over there, and that came out real close. It wasn't too long after F8, I think, maybe a couple weeks. So they got US, and it looks like they got China covered, at least from a hardware perspective, and now they're rolling it out, like you say, to Canada and European retailers.
I wonder if we'll eventually get some sales numbers on it. You know, I know they're not required to release any information like that, but I'd be curious to see how many Oculus Go's have sold since its launch. You know, that'd be kind of interesting. You know, speaking of Oculus Go, why don't we go ahead and take the opportunity and kick it over to Chris? I see behind you an Oculus Go box. So now I am the only lone holdout among the crew. Oculus, if you're listening, you can PM me and hook me up if you'd like. But Chris, how's it going with that Oculus Go?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I'm glad I've been convinced to get one from you guys over the weeks of saying how good it is. And, you know, we have a lot of content. There's just a lot of content on it that I wanted to play and wanted to try compared to PC VR and all that. I got the 64 gig version just because I knew, you know, the 32 gig might be a little too small for all the games I want to play on it. And
if you download Henry, then it's definitely too small. Henry
I did download Henry. I don't know how much storage that takes up, but yeah. No, I mean, I'm pleasantly impressed. Like for coming from the Gear VR, like the problem with my Gear VR was I starting to not be able to play mobile games on it anymore because like the requirements are getting higher end and the graphics are getting better. So it's nice to have something that can actually run it, and it's way less than a phone, so you really can't go wrong with that. But I'm definitely going to use this a lot for like watching media, and I don't know. I feel like I might like watch Netflix in bed or YouTube or something. Like I don't know. It's kind of a cool thing rather than like having your little phone in front of your face or something. So I'm impressed by the screen. I'm impressed by the lenses. I really notice flicker though. I think I might have really sensitive eyes. So like the screen, I have to lower the brightness on that for me personally. But yeah, overall, I've liked it a lot. It kind of exceeded what I thought it would be because I didn't have the Gear VR controller ever. So this is the first time I'm getting that actual controller that you can use to point and click at stuff. So that adds a lot as well. Not using the stupid like navigation on the side of the Gear VR. That was pretty bad when that was the only way.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to pair a gamepad to it. So I'll definitely be exploring some of that and some games like Kin and stuff over the next month. So that'll be good.
What's been your favorite game so far?
It's been Coaster Combat. I know you've talked a little bit about that before, but a lot of people like when they first think of VR, I don't know, people just like roller coasters in VR, even though it's like, you're gonna get motion sick. I always tell people that they usually say they don't care, but Coaster Combat, I think it did a really good job of making it not really motion sickness inducing, as well as adding a game on top of it. So it's like you have like a crossbow and you're shooting gems and you have to get the most gems. It's like a little mini game thing, but it's really fun to jump in and out of there. I actually did some Face Your Fears, which was horrifying. I screamed so loud in the middle of the night. So I finally did some horror stuff.
Which one did you do?
So I did the heights one. Like, I don't know.
The
oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
That one's not really scary. That one's kind of cool. And then I did the one where you're in the bedroom and there's like the Jack in the Boxes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That one's probably the worst one on there. At least I don't know Stranger Things, so I didn't even want to try that one. But that one
was pretty good. I want to get more because the rest of them, they're like $1 to unlock each of the scenarios. I kind of want to do it. I realize it's going to be $1 really and I'm never going to touch it again. But like, the 3 that I've done are so good. Like, it makes me want to do the rest.
It's hard because it's really like the best graphical or best graphics I've seen on the Oculus Go so far, really. And like, it was the same with the Gear VR. When on my Gear VR, I got Face Your Fears when it was just the original bedroom demo type thing. Now it's all these other experiences, but like that was also by far the best graphical demonstration, really, of what the Gear VR could do. So it's cool that that persists on the Go as well. Yeah.
The biggest thing for me going from Oculus Go, or the Rift to the Oculus Go, is the lack of God rays. More than the resolution even, or the clarity, it's the God rays. Going back to the Rift is... And I know that there's probably like inconsistencies between various Rifts, there's probably slightly more God rays on certain ones than there is on others. But going from the Oculus Go, where honestly, there's almost 0 God rays. It's very slightly there, but it's like when you go back to the Rift and you play games. I mean, I'm just trying to think of an example, like Skyrim even. I went into Skyrim the other day, and on like the loading screens and the text and all of this kind of stuff, it just pops out of you far more. And I really hope that they sort this out on Gen 2 of the Oculus. And I'm sure they will.
It makes me excited for Gen 2 for sure. Like, I wish I could just take the lenses, put them in the Rift. I'm sure someone's got to be doing trying to do that or something, some DIY
That's
thing.
What I haven't put a set of calipers on it, but when I look at the Go and the Rift, it almost look like it's the same physical footprint of like they kept the same shape. You know how all the different headsets have a slightly different lens shape. Seems like they kept pretty much the same shape, and they may be the same size. It may just be a matter of someone, but unlike the people doing the Gear VR to Vive lens modification on the Vive, you have access, or someone's pecked away and figured out how to get access. You can change the distortion profiles so that you can actually upload the correction for the Gear VR lenses so that the Vive doesn't, no one has that for the Rift. So like physically transplanting the lenses is one thing, but actually getting if there is a change, now the rooms that with the Go versus the Vive, or Go versus the Rift, there may not be a change in the distortion profiles. It may just be the same lenses, reduce God rays, which would be super awesome. So yeah, I want someone to slice this stuff up and give it a go. That way I can then copy. I'm not going to make a sacrifice out of my gear just yet.
Hey, if someone made a business where you send in your Rift and they do it for you, I mean, I feel like that would do really well. Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and just go ahead and get into some game discussion now? And the biggest game of the month, or well, right now anyways, is certainly Space Junkies. It's kind of a closed beta, but there's so many codes that are floating out there. It seems like an open beta almost. So many posts on Reddit and everywhere where people just giving up countless codes for this game. Gary and Steve, I know you guys have played this game. I haven't, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But why don't we go ahead and bounce over to Steve and get your take on Space Junkies?
Well, Gary's a little more concise usually, so I'm going to just relay it to him. Like, Gary, you give your go first. I think you don't mince words like I do, so I'll follow you up.
No, well, I've played through the tutorial and then 2 matches, and I played 1 match just before I came on. And the biggest thing in this closed beta is the community is great. Okay, that's the first thing I want to say, because I was in there with a few people, and we're all supporting each other. So for anybody who doesn't know, Space Junkies is a multiplayer. It's almost like a dogfighting kind of game, really. You could sort of say it's kind of like an Eve Valkyrie kind of game, but you're not in a spaceship. You're in a suit, and you're just there in person. And that's really how this works. And a lot of the levels are designed in a way to make it more like a dogfight. It feels far more like a dogfighting kind of game than it does something like Echo Combat, for example. Echo Combat's in an arena which is more sort of very clinical almost. It's got all these sharp edges and this kind of stuff. But Space Junkies, it puts you out in the middle of space, and you're floating around all of these asteroids, but it's deathmatch. This closed beta is really deathmatch, at least the amount that I've played of it. And yeah, I think it's great. I'm very, very impressed with it. In fact, I've almost got 0 negative to say about it. I think what it's doing is very, very good. So I went in, and as I say, the community is very supportive, as they often are in these closed betas. When you've got people that are passionate about games, and they're passionate enough to try and get into these closed betas, that they want to do this kind of stuff. I think it works quite well. So we were all sort of having quite a good laugh the first time I played it, and then earlier today I went in and we were having, actually earlier today it was me against one other person. It took me a while to get in there. So this is just sort of how closed betas work. Sometimes there's not too many people playing, but me against one other guy, and we had a great time. We were just having a laugh with it. We weren't taking it too seriously, just enjoying it. I can't really go through too many of the game mechanics. It's pretty straightforward. You've got a gun and you're floating around. The controls, some people have said the controls take a little while to get used to in terms of like navigating. I didn't really have that problem. I sort of got used to it pretty quick, and I enjoyed it. It was very much sort of jumping and play. There was no sort of friction in terms of the experience, sort of getting used to anything. You play through the tutorial and you're ready to go. So yeah, I mean, I can recommend it so far from the closed beta, and I'm looking forward to playing more. As somebody who's not a multiplayer person, this, along with Echo Combat, has really impressed me over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I think it's a very good game. I want to see what changes between the beta and the final. Because my number one critique with it, Gary, you were very positive. I'm going to be very positive, but I want to start off a little critiquey. My number one critique is that at least in the beta, it's only 2v2 max. So when it's 2v2, it is a team deathmatch. The first 2, I believe 15 frags or until time runs out. So typical team deathmatch, and the arenas are pretty small. That's not too chaotic, but it's also not so where there's infrequent action either. So I think that's okay, but I would like to see maybe slightly larger map, or even try the same maps with 3v3 maybe. And so that's sort of number one concern that I have. Another concern that I guess I have is the continual balancing, and I have to trust developers here, but some weapons seem to not be effective. There's some weapons that are, well, let me back up here. You choose ordnance on you. You can choose different sort of on your back items. Like by default, you get a shield in one hand and a plasma lightsaber type sword in the other. And then your guns are tethered at your hips. And it's a really cool mechanic where the guns are tethered. Like if you let go of your gun, it kind of floats away in 0G, but it's still on your hip and it slowly retracts back in so that when you need it, you know exactly where it is. But that's your equipment. And then you find guns throughout the arena. And some guns require two hands, and you got to sort of manually reload. And it seems like they're throwing the fans of a game like Onward a bone in that sense, and that it's a little more realistic. The problem is when someone is shooting at you and they have a fully automatic minigun, that you're kind of at a disadvantage for the sake of a realistic mechanic. So I don't know what they can do there to balance that out, but that's sort of the frustration I've seen, is like people want to have in their hands maybe half of the weapons that are out there, and some of it's the luck of a draw. If you don't come across a weapon, then that's just it. There's also an element of get good with that too. Just get good with every weapon, and you don't have to worry about it, I guess. But I tend to have favorites. About the locomotion, like I think it largely works. I think there are there are two modes of locomotion where you can steer with your head, and they're kind of borrowing, I guess, from their eagle flight background there. And that works pretty good. And then there's also steer with your hand, which is how we play most natural locomotion games. However, in this game, it won't feel like playing Skyrim or something like that, because it is 6 degrees of freedom. And I don't mean the headset, but I mean you as the player. It's much more closer to Starblood Arena, if anyone played that on PlayStation VR, in the sense that you with the thumbsticks, you move yourself forwards, backwards, left, right in two-dimensional space, but then with the right thumbstick you can move yourself vertically and you can descend, and so that gives you the 3-dimensional 6 degree of freedom control, and that has a slightly different effect, at least in my experience, versus using what we normally think of with headset focused gaze-based locomotion versus hand-based locomotion. So I played with both. I don't know which one I'm going to settle on. Other than that, it's really good. They've done really good. If you saw your computer monitor, like if someone was watching you play, or if you looked at it, like they have it set up real nice, perfect for streamers, where you see the match score and you see the person you're playing, you see their name. Like it's really, they've put some attention there for people that may YouTube or may stream this game a lot. So the big thing is, what's the price going to be? I don't think we know it. Chime in, guys, if you guys know what the price is. I don't yet. So what's the price going to be? Are we going to have more than the 4 maps? And is there going to be more modes? Because right now the team deathmatch and the free-for-all is automatically selected whenever you have an imbalance. So if you start a match 1v2 or whatever, it'll do a free-for-all, and it'll just, it'll be a free-for-all in that case, and it won't be a unbalanced deathmatch. But other than the free-for-all and the deathmatch, that's the only thing I've seen. So I put played about 20 matches. I really like it. I think it's a very good game, and I don't think it has to compete with Echo Combat, Echo Arena. I think they augment each other. They're so different. And I think last time we talked about Space Junkies, I drew a comparison more to a Call of Duty, and I stand behind that. Although I'd say it feels even more like Quake, and I'm not too experienced with the Quake games or anything of years past, but it's very different. It can coexist along Echo Combat, can coexist along the Onward and the Pavlovs, which are more military sim. They're all online shooters, and they have that competitive online shooters, and they have that core similarity, but they're also very different experiences.
I didn't think of that Quake comparison that you're making there, but like Quake 3 Arena, that kind of stuff, it's got a feel of that kind of game within this, and I agree with that. But your point of comparing it to Echo Combat, I agree. I don't think it really needs to compete with that. It's a very different kind of game, although on the surface it looks similar. Your traversal method is so different in this game than it is to Echo Combat that it really completely changes the game completely. And it, as I say, I think I'll go back to my original comment. To me, it's more of a dogfighting game where you're just not in a spaceship. That's really what it feels like to me. But it does it in a very good way. I really enjoyed my time in there.
Yeah, and like a Call of Duty, they've given it, you progress through ranks and levels, and you unlock loot, and that you can change your player card, you can change your little icon, you can customize, you can choose different characters. I'm assuming you maybe unlock more equipment that they haven't put into the beta. So it seems to have some depth in it. Just like I keep saying Call of Duty, like they've learned over the years with Call of Duty, keep giving it that kind of fluff stuff, on the top layer, and it keeps people playing because they want to get to the next rank, or they want to unlock a certain player card or whatever, that just for bragging rights or whatever it may be. So yeah, I'm gonna I'll say I'll recommend this game just like I did Echo Combat. I think if you're a multiplayer person, you could probably play this thing for dozens and dozens or hundreds of hours, and be quite content with it. So be curious again what the price is. I think that will matter to the degree of how much I recommend it. If it's $59.99, which isn't out of the question. It seems crazy that I would say that, but it isn't out of the question based on Star Trek Bridge Crew and other things. So that'll change, just to how much I think the game is worth it. But if it's $29.99 or $39.99, I think, yeah, it's a solid recommendation for me.
I'd hope $29.99 for this one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like the dates and the arrival times because of Echo Combat. Echo Combat. I mean, I know from what Gary has said about it being more similar to Eve Valkyrie, I guess these really are two different games. But like for someone like myself, I almost like think they're in the same exact ballpark, because they're both 0G, they're both multiplayer. And Echo Combat's going to be $10, right? So that kind of puts a little pressure on Ubisoft there. I think they probably would like to get this game out prior to Echo Combat full version coming out, probably would help them. So the reason I have not played this game, I have this other little YouTube channel, VR Game Rankings, and I occasionally do videos over there. And I did a video recently. And right before I did that video, I remembered, today's the 28th. This is Space Junkies Day, and so I thought, well, let me just jump into Space Junkies for like 20 minutes, half hour or something, so I could give just some quick impressions on, before I record this video. So I went to go get into Space Junkies and was going through the process and, had my headset on and it seemed like it was about to start. And then a message popped onto the screen that said something about like, this game requires Uplay. And if you saw this other video that I did, I went on a crazy rant. I just kind of went a bit psycho there. And especially I edited that video and I've seen that video. And after watching it myself, I was shaking my head myself like, dude, why did you go so psycho on this? But in defense, here's what I'll say about all of this. Okay, so I've been playing video games since dinosaurs roamed the earth. And I've played, in the era of the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. I played video games all through the 90s and been playing video games forever. I've been a video game junkie as long as, it's been around. And I can remember Well, it used to be you would buy a video game, you'd plug it into your machine, whether it be a disc or a cartridge, you'd pop it into your machine, you'd turn it on, and you'd play the game. And that's the way video games used to be back in the good old days. And I think it was maybe around the Xbox 360 era when we started, and PlayStation 3 era, when we started to get into this situation where occasionally you would get a game and you would put it in your machine and you'd want to play it, but something would pop up on the screen. Some little thing would pop up. And I remember this first with Electronic Arts and with playing some of the John Madden games. I used to be into like some of the John Madden football games. And it would be this situation where you put the John Madden game in, and then this thing pops up like, you've got to log into your EA account. And I'm like, what's going on here? I'm on my Xbox. I'm trying to play this game. What is this extra bullshit? Like, what is so special about EA that Microsoft lets them get away with this kind of shit? Like, I didn't understand that. And it infuriated me. I'm just going to be straight up with you. It absolutely infuriated me that, like, I was more upset, honestly, with Microsoft than I was with EA. I was upset with the fact that Microsoft treated EA like they're this special little baby that they got to take care of, and allowed them to have their separate little tracking system, which I thought was complete and utter bullshit. And so that used to irritate me in a major way. And then I can remember 2K games. Like, I remember I got I believe it was like NBA 2K. Now my headset completely fell out. Hold on one second here. But I remember NBA 2K, right? Getting NBA 2K and popping that in and wanting to play that, and then they did the same. Sorry, guys. Okay. So I remember NBA 2K wanting to play an NBA 2K game, and it was the same type of thing. You had to like enter in some email, and you had to sign up for this email, and that stuff just drove me crazy. It was just a pet peeve of mine. Like why am I jumping through this extra hoop? What is so special about you that I need to do all this extra shit? And then so now we go to Uplay, and it's everybody wants to have their own online store. And so this video that I did, I went off on a rant about it. And Fluke Rogie, who's one of our fan, he watches our shows and he'll like post our threads in the Oculus subreddit. He commented on my video and he was like, this is the first video you've ever made where I had to stop the video and he was saying, I don't understand your complaint about this. And this is my complaint. My complaint is, if we do this for every publisher that comes down the road, where does this stop? Does Bethesda make their own little online store? And then if you're going to play a Bethesda game, you got to sign into Bethesda Net. Does freaking Square Enix, when they come out with a new Tomb Raider game or a new Final Fantasy, they make their own store, and then now you have Square Vision on your computer? Like, where does this shit stop? That's my complaint with this, is like, no, fuck this. No, I'm not doing it. And not only am I not backing away from this stance, I will never fucking go down this road. I'm sorry. I'm never going to do it. I will go back to playing Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. I'll go back to Mario. Call me an old man, get off my lawn, young whippersnappers. I'm not doing it, period. So.
Yeah,
I think you missed the point. Uplay is required here. I don't know if you actually said that.
Yeah, you need Uplay. Look, all of these things, it's annoying, isn't it? You go onto a game. It's like when we bought LA Noire, VR experience. You have to open up a Rockstar account, whatever it's called, the social club or whatever. It's annoying, and the problem is, looking at it from the other way, Ubisoft are doing, and I know you're not singling out Ubisoft or any of these other things. You're just like, your complaint is with the whole of where we're going with this stuff. And I agree, I'd rather these things didn't exist. To me, it's like Steam. Okay, everybody wants to be Steam. Ubisoft wants Uplay to be Steam. That's what they want.
But they're not. They're
No,
not.
they're not. They're not. But can you blame them for trying? This is the difference. And I think it's got so far that they will never be Steam. Of course, they will never be Steam. And the reason Steam took off was because Half-Life 2. You needed, this was the first game that required Steam in order to be installed, in order to play. And Half-Life 2, I mean, you don't get a bigger game than that really on a PC. So it had to be installed. That's what enabled Steam to take off in the way it did. Ubisoft are trying to do this. Rockstar are trying to do this. All of these other companies are trying to do this. And it's frustrating. I'm not actually really against what you're saying in any of what you're saying, Anthony. It's frustrating. It annoys me, and I'd rather I didn't need to jump through these hoops. But at the same time, I'm not really going to blame any of the companies for trying. I just hope eventually it gets to a point where we don't need to do this stuff as you do.
But
I think it helps. So one thing is I already had a Uplay account. I guess maybe because of Star Trek Bridge Crew or something I played on PlayStation 4. But as we all know, if you guys have seen the news relatively lately, Sony is refusing to play ball with cross-platform play on a lot of games. Most recently, the Fallout 76, they've kind of said, well, we won't let you play Fallout 76 with Xbox players, with PC players. Speaking of Star Trek Bridge Crew specifically, and I know there have been other games, you were able to cross-play regardless of Sony's stance on between PC players and PlayStation 4 players in VR on that game. I did it here in my house with my wife, and that didn't sound right. But if this gives Ubisoft or a company like you a little bit of power, a little way to take, okay, Sony, I don't need your services for this. The game needs to run on your console, but I don't need your servers. I don't need your matchmaking. I now have that in-house through my software. I think there's a plus there because Sony, I don't think is going to continue.
That's marketing speak, bro. Now you're falling in line with like their little like, oh, this makes us allow the experience to be better.
You see where Sony stands, and what I'm telling you is I played Star Trek Bridge Crew between a PlayStation and a PC, despite Sony's stance on not allowing it in most experiences. And that's one of the things that Ubisoft will say that they're able to do. Sprint Vector, a game that was pretty good, did not have crossplay. So why are some games able to do it and some games not? Is it a wishy-washy Sony policy and they're allowing some people to do it and some people are not? Or is it these major publishers that have services and they can provide things that a small publisher or a small indie studio can't? I don't know that it was a case. I wasn't in the room when Ubisoft inked these deals, whatever. But I'm just saying that is one difference. It could be. I think it's spreads you don't want to centralize all your power with Steam or with any one company. I think decentralization is better for the consumer. So it is a pain in the ass, and I don't want to do it with every publisher, but I don't mind if a few of the major players step up and say, look, I'm going to try to kick Steam in the nuts here. I'm going to try to kick Oculus Home in the nuts here where I can, when I can. I think long term it may help kind of keep the power out of being in one spot and one spot only.
So, see, the Rockstar Social Club thing, that doesn't bother me as much as Origin and Uplay do. If you want my email, it's an irritation. It's an irritation. I feel like it's unnecessary. But actually having like a store, like actually having like a software application that is constantly running on my fucking computer, that is a whole nother ball game. And my take on it is that every time one of us, any gamer out there, bends over and allows this shit to happen, all you're doing is giving incentive to Square Enix, to Capcom, to every mid-level publisher that hasn't done this yet. You're emboldening them. You're now like they're watching what's going on with Uplay and with Origin, and now Bethesda is gonna. I guarantee you, they're all gonna have their own stores. Where when this really happened, if everybody played it the way I play it, where it's like, oh, Origin's required to play this game? Fuck you, I'm gone. There's other fish in the sea. See, my take is, there's a billion freaking games out there. You know how many games I have on my backlog? I've got like 100 games on my backlog, really good games that maybe I'm 50% of the way through. And I don't believe that any one single game is so powerful and so magical that I'm going to allow myself to be bent over the table like this and add your software onto my computer just so I can play your little measly game. But everybody is so quick to bend over for that. And then guess what? Next year, when Bethesda has their own store and when Capcom has their own store and Square Enix and every little publisher under the sun, now you're going to have 27 different pieces of bloatware that are all running on your computer. Every time you turn your computer on, that little bloatware is going to cycle up. Why are they doing this? They're not doing it just for the store. They're also tracking your behavior. It's all bullshit. But you know what? I'm going to be the old man that says, get off my lawn, and I'm going to go back to Mario, and I'm going to go back to Sonic.
What we need is self-sovereign internet, isn't it? This is something that Kent Byer talks about and various other people talk about. So instead of subscribing to all of these accounts, you don't need the account. You are the account. You move through the internet. And this is the way it will probably eventually go. They subscribe to you. You don't subscribe to Amazon, you don't subscribe to eBay or any of these other accounts that you have to set up. They subscribe to you, and that's the way it's sort of progressing. And I guess that's hopefully the way it will go. I don't know how really in practical terms that works in the long term, because we're still going to need like Steam and this kind of stuff. Does Steam all of a sudden just reverse their position where they need to subscribe to you as a user rather than you subscribe to them as a service? I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's interesting stuff anyway, because that's hopefully that's where it will go.
Yeah, I probably feel different if I didn't have if I had a 6-year, 10-year history with Steam. But to me, Uplay and Steam are the same thing. Like it spools up when I launch a game. Like I have to have it open.
But it's called
it does
first
the
movers
DRM
advantage. It's first movers advantage. Steam already did it. Now everybody's trying to be Steam. Sorry, you can't be Steam. Nobody wants 25 Steams. And so yeah, and I came to Steam way late. I didn't come to them because of Half-Life 2. I came to them because they already had an established platform. And one person said, "Oh, well, this is the same as when you got Oculus and then you signed up for an No, that's a third part. That's a whole entire platform. You have to do that. There's no way around that." But when we start to get to every little Servios, eventually Servios is going to have their own store. Eventually Vertigo Games is like, where does this stop? It doesn't stop if we keep bending over and taking it. But, you know, we can end the rant now, and we do have another game. We have another thing to get into here. I mean, I'm going to, stick to my views, and it's differing opinions. We all have differing opinions.
Well, I think nobody would disagree with you, the fact that it's annoying and it's not really consumer friendly, but at the same time, this is what they feel they need to do in order to compete. And competition's good. Steam, should we just let Steam carry on and just have this whole service to themselves? Uplay drops out, or should we have some kind of competition? There is no competition. I'll acknowledge
competition.
That.
It's I don't. Well, you know what's weird though is Eagle Flight. I played that on PlayStation 4. I don't remember any Uplay anything, but I didn't.
I had to have a Uplay for mine. When I played Eagle Flight on the Rift. I don't know.
Sure, you did. I have Eagle Flight stuff in my Uplay. It popped up when it launches with Space Junkies. It knows I played It knows I played Eagle Flight.
Yeah, maybe because my kids would use my PS4 as well. Like maybe they signed up for Uplay when I wasn't around or something. And
you're probably gonna need it for transference. You could be principled and say I'm not going to play that game, but like Ubisoft, like they have 5 games now if you count transference. So like to me that's worth it for 5 games. I don't know if I'd do it for 1 game, or if I would do it for a developer or a publisher where I'm not. But for someone where I know I'm going to play 5, 6, maybe this time next year it's up to 7. 3 years down the line, I've played 15 games now from Ubisoft, especially since they're supporting VR better than a lot of the other companies that EA. So like throw them a bone. Like I don't look at it as Ubisoft is somehow bending me over the table and screwing me. Like I can't say they're screwing me, but Steam isn't, or that Oculus isn't. Like all these companies want the same crap. So I live my life. I want to play content. Everyone can choose to be principled. It's the same thing for the people who refuse to play anything on Oculus Home because Facebook. To me, like, I'm gonna die at some point. Like, I have one life, and I want to make the most of it. And like, I'm not gonna deny myself good quality content out there for some talking point principle. Like, I had fun with Space Junkies. It was worth the 4 seconds to install Uplay. It was a very fun game, and I'm gonna play it more. So I don't. That's the way I see it. Like, if I was going down the history books as some political activist, that maybe I would feel different. But I want content and I want to enjoy it, and that's why I have Oculus Home, and that's why I have Uplay. And if someone else makes something compelling, and in order to sell me that product, they want me to register an account, just like Amazon does when you want to buy something from them, then I think that's the terms, that's the agreement that you're making to enjoy that content.
Well, I know I'll admit there's going to be all these other stores. Like, if I get Magic Leap is going to have its own store. If Google has some Google headset I eventually get, Google's going to have its own store. But I look at that completely differently than like 2K Games and 2K Games doesn't have their own headset. EA doesn't have their own headset. Bethesda doesn't have their own. Like, if I'm buying a hardware platform from you and you have a store, I understand that. But the third party games, where does it fucking end? That's my point. And my point is that if none of us when EA first did this shit, if everybody said, like, when that screen first popped on the screen, when people first put Madden in, and if everybody said, fuck this, it would have died within months. But no, everybody's like, oh, this is just a minor inconvenience. Okay. But so I mean, it's differing opinions.
Have we got an explicit rating on this episode?
We should.
We always do, right? Yeah.
Okay, well, there is one other little experience me and Gary tried, I believe, is Nefertari Journey to Eternity, and this was pretty cool. I liked it. Why don't you go ahead and start it off, Gary?
Yeah, so this is they describe it as a tomb scale experience, which is pretty cool. I like that little pun there. And so this is like a photogrammetry tour of Queen Nefertari's tomb, but I mean, I put in the comments on this, I've actually put, is this photogrammetry? Because it looks incredible. This is one of the best looking sort of photogrammetry experiences that I've seen. And it's to do really with sort of the level of detail on the textures. I don't know if you saw this, Anthony, but if you go really up close to the walls, there just seems to be no pixelation at all, no matter how close you get to these walls. Within this tomb, it just looks incredible. So I guess it's sort of to do, the rooms are sort of they're sort of very square rooms, and maybe that's slightly easier to capture in terms of photogrammetry capture. I don't know the details of how they've managed to get this sort of extra detail within these rooms, but so you go through this little experience and you have a guided tour. So it's a guided tour kind of thing, which you can go through various rooms. You teleport around and you're given information on every little room that you explore within this tomb. And also what you can do, you can go up to various paintings and drawings on the wall, and it will give you various options to get a little bit more detail on these as well. But yeah, the thing that stands out for me on this is the fidelity. I mean, more than anything, more than any other photogrammetry experience. And it's very self-contained. It's not huge. There's not a lot really to explore. There's a few of these rooms, but the level of detail is very, very impressive.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, is this like, and I wasn't sure that it mentioned anything about this, but I know it's Curiosity something is like the developer of this, and they have like their own website, and you can pay like a fee, and they have all kinds of other VR stuff that comes along with it. And I'm wondering if this was just like a short demo of it and it gets longer, because when you watch the trailer for this, they kind of show like outside in a temple, like outdoors in the sun. They show a little bit of that. And when I got into this, it was just these couple of rooms there. It was cool. I liked it. I really did like it. But I never saw like outside where sunlight was or anything. So I wondered if this is a shorter demo of a longer experience that they have. But I do think this is super cool. I like this. I like non-gaming VR experiences, and it's been a while since I've tried them. I mean, I've talked about Member Dispatch, and there's a lot of different things that can be done that aren't games. And this is a whole other side of VR that we often don't spend very much time on. But I happened to bounce over, I believe it was like Upload VR or something. I saw the story for this, and I thought, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. I've like Egypt. I imagine there will be a day, and we're not there yet. But I mean, how many of us can fly to Egypt and check out the pyramids firsthand, or the Sistine Chapel, or whatever it may be? And I imagine a future where so many more people are going to be able to experience these things. And then like this tomb, like even if you flew to Egypt, I don't think you're going to get into this tomb. Like they probably don't this isn't probably something where they let regular people go down into, because they would end up leaving their freaking Kit Kat wrapper in a Gatorade bottle laying on the ground there. But so they probably don't even let you get in there. But it's cool that they have stuff like this, and I think it's just going to get better and better. One thing I did notice, though, for me, Gary, is when I first went in, it had these different settings for how high the quality you wanted it to be. And I just put it on good. And so I didn't see the super clarity that you saw. But and when I was like moving around, like I got some herky jerkiness, and then it would stop, and then it would be clear and smooth. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in there, and because one of the settings was epic, and I'm going to put it back on epic and see if because I got a little bit of herky jerkiness even with it set to good. So maybe if I have it set to epic, it'll still have that herky jerkiness, but when it stops and it dials in, and the frame rate gets okay, it'll be even more crystal clear. Because I was looking at all the little symbols and the erosion and all of that. And then there's also some interactivity from the standpoint that you'll see like the god Isis, or all these different Egyptian gods, and you look at it and it kind of has this matrixy shimmer on it, and then you hit the button and it goes into like you're in a museum, and it'll tell you this is the god Horus, or blah blah blah, and Nefertiti, this she's protecting Nefertiti in her journey to the underworld, blah blah blah, whatever it happens to be. So they'll have a little explanation like that as well.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The other thing that you were mentioning about the just VR used for experiences rather than games, we've spoke about this a few times before, and I just wanted to just very quickly mention like the Anne Frank experience, because that was one that really stuck in my mind over the past couple of weeks. I tried it on both the Rift and the Oculus Go actually, but yeah, because I think you mentioned, Anthony, when in that episode, I wasn't on that episode, but when you were talking about this experience, how it was, you knew the story, but sort of the overview of the story. And that's how I felt. I was like, I know this story. I know this story. I know what I'm going to go into this experience and sort of experience these rooms that she was in. But did I really know the story? I didn't. And it has all of these extra attributes that make that more than almost any other experience that I can think of. The impact of that experience was far more than I expected. It was almost ridiculous, because I thought, I know this story, I know what to expect, I know what this is going to be, and I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be great. But the impact at the end of that is far more, and I think part of that is rooted in VR. It absolutely is. Just feeling like you are, because I didn't know the ins and outs of all of these rooms where her and her family lived. It was an overview. You knew she lived. I assumed it was just one room.
Yeah, I know. Didn't you, like, at the more you watched it, you thought, man, they had a nice little situation up there. All these different rooms. They had a kitchen. They had this area. I mean, it was, if you were stuck there for years and years and years, it would be pretty horrible. But I thought it was just one little tiny attic. I thought it was nothing.
I thought the same thing. I thought it sounds such a crappy thing to say, but I was thinking, like, this isn't as bad as I visioned it. Like Again, it sounds so horrible to even be saying that about Anne Frank, but yeah, the place was a lot nicer than I thought it was going to be.
It was just all the awfulness that was going on around it outside, I suppose. That's the thing, and the impending. I think that experience communicated it far better than you can ever think of. And like I say, VR played an important role of that, having that impact, that level of impact, without a doubt. And it's a cliche, you know. We can all go into all of these experiences and just say, "Oh, this is going to be an experience where, it's going to hit you hard," and this kind of stuff. And you think, "Yeah, I'm going to be affected by it." But honestly, sometimes on some of these experiences, I'm not affected. But with that one, I mean, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. The presentation and everything that they did was bang on, and the narrative, it takes you through a story, it takes you through her story in very, very short narrative excerpts, which almost, if you could print them out on a page, it'd probably take up a single side of A4. And yet at the same time, it took you through her journey within 10, 15 minutes maybe. It was, really, really good.
What is A4?
It's a paper size.
Yeah, it's a paper size.
I'm making a Euro joke. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, letter for the win, right? I was gonna mention one thing quickly that we didn't mention that I thought was interesting, kind of related to experiences rather than games. Is on the public test channel of Rift. They added multiplayer on Oculus Home, so you can have up to 8 people in your house now.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet because I've been using the Go all week. But man, I can't wait to try that. And you can broadcast your window or your desktop with Dash, so friends can watch your screen. You can watch their screen, kind of incorporating some of those big screen features in there. There's going to be a new avatar editor, like the one they showed off the Oculus Connect. So there's more colors and stuff. And then also there's experimental locomotion, so you can use thumbstick locomotion instead of teleport. So if you want to opt into that, there's like a little setting in the beta tab where you can opt into the public test channel. But I'm excited to try that. I still look forward to the moment where we can select a game and we all get in the same lobby automatically. Like hopefully that's what they're working towards. But that's cool. It's a good step to that. Been waiting for this forever. So we were excited about when Riftcore 2.0 came out. So I'm glad they're starting to make.
Have you decorated like your Oculus house or anything?
No, because no one can come over. I don't know. Now I will. Yeah. We should make a new series on our channel, just like my house, my Rift house. Each decorate our house.
I'm not sure that's for us. Some of the audience may like it, but yeah, I can't stand and still play a ton of Fallout. And you have all the settlement building there. Like I went and got a mod that would automate the settlement building because I can't stand place a picture here, place a rug here. Yeah. Like no, that's not. I just want to play the game.
Yeah. So that's cool, but yeah, that's everything, right?
Yeah. That's pretty much wraps it up for our show, episode 91. And so probably need to remind everybody that we are going to basically take the rest of this month of July off. We will be back in early August with our next show. And is there any other little updates we need to do?
Nope. No, I don't think so.
Okay, so we'll see you guys in August. We will be back. We'll definitely be back. See you guys then.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.